Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. And that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. Very big thank you to everyone who leaves a like every single time. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. A lot of wildly, insanely fantastic cryptocurrency news as usual. The optimism has only risen. If for some reason, I don't know how you did it, if you missed any news over the course of the last 2 weeks, the expectations are for Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency market that basically Bitcoin is on its way, like now, not yesterday, now on its way to $150,000 to $200,000 per coin by the time we get to and or are in July. That's literally been like the encompassing part of the news, with one analyst stating that instead of 200,000, his numbers are showing $130,000 to $150,000. People think that the bull run is back. I'm still seeing a lot of chatter about as to when alt season is going to start. Typically what happens is, now listen to my words, typically what happens is that Bitcoin rises in price, Ethereum rises in price, altcoins begin to outpace Bitcoin's growth, and Bitcoin's dominance mathematically in the market begins to fade or go down because there are more altcoins than there are Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes up by 5% and altcoins go up by 16%, therefore, Bitcoin's dominance falls, where we currently are in the world, at least at the time of me making this video, is that Bitcoin is like getting the full force of nearly all the attention. So there's still a lot of rumors and what's the word? Looking forward to, I can't find the word, to the XRP ETFs, the Cardano ETFs, the Litecoin ETFs. I see people on Twitter talking about Pingu coin, and there's all these other kinds of things, but it's one of those, and I mentioned it in a recent video. This is 2 videos ago, and I noticed always people tend to get really annoyed when the actual logic is there. It's not that you shouldn't be investing in altcoins, but understand the narrative for the past year and a half has mainly just been Bitcoin. So when you see Bitcoin succeeding, hitting new all-time highs, going over 110,000, and the altcoins haven't moved, that's because the money is moving mainly to one place, to one, maybe 4 different coins. And that's something that I think realistically a lot of people in the near future are going to have to deal with. We will probably, if everything works out as we assume it will, by the time we are like middle June, let's say even early July, we should have had a lot of yeses or nos from the US SEC as to which ETFs they're going to allow through. The ones that get allowed through, those coins are probably going to skyrocket. But the other part of it is that we have 10,000 plus coins in this market, and everyone's expecting all 10,000 to do exceptionally well. It's probably just going to be the ones that we've been hearing about over and over and over. But once again, a lot of people don't like that message because they want to hear that every single crappy coin is going to do very well. In extremely popular news, and I didn't know that the numbers were actually this bad. There's less Bitcoin available than previously assumed. Something that we've been going over. And it's really, and I'll tell you honestly, it's very fascinating to see people reacting to news that we've received for years. But when they get the news, I guess maybe in another context, some other way, I'm really not sure what words to actually put there. It's kind of this like almost disappointment kind of thing. I've seen recently, and it's been the last couple of months more so, we normally would see something resembling an alt season around February or March is when it would normally begin. The tariffs happened. The world is falling apart in a multitude of ways. Countries, their economies just aren't doing too hot. And then subsequently, basically, a lot of our market was kind of stalled in movement. This is why we're still getting expectations, mainly. And if I can be honest with you, a lot of the analysts are saying that if we do have an alt season, it'll be once Ethereum really begins to pump. So a lot of people, similar to a $150,000, $200,000 Bitcoin by July, I'm seeing a lot of $4,800 to $5,500 or something like that for Ethereum. Basically meaning if Ethereum pumps, the altcoins will also follow course, and then everybody will get the alt season that they want. But as I said, with current conditions in the market, there are some altcoins that are doing 2, 3, 4% daily, which is incredible. That's, it's actually astronomical to be able to think that over the course of a 100-day period, if you continuously got 3%, that's 300%, or plus actually. It's actually way, way more than that, but you'd be doing just fine, but people want a lot more than that. So anyway, back on course, daily. This hasn't been a surprise to anyone. This shouldn't be shocking. But because Bitcoin at the moment is getting the largest amount of activity and news over and over again, of course, there's a lot less Bitcoin on exchanges. But that number continues to drop. And now we're starting to get some of the numbers floating out there. So basically, this guy's Matt Haugen, I think his name is, and he's talking about how little Bitcoin there is, and how little Bitcoin there is left, and how much money left there is still to go into Bitcoin. I don't know what the change is. I don't know why it happened, how it happened, but it does feel a little bit better to kind of be back there in this like older mentality of crypto and Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is for. And as far as like money movement, if you were here, this is years ago, a constant news story and conversation that we were having revolved around the idea not only of how scarce Bitcoin is, but how much money there was left to go into it. I know it sounds a little odd and maybe abstract, the idea being the M1, M2, and M3 money supplies, basically being money circulating, paper money. And then it goes to debt. Then it goes to other forms of money that are like not really money, but they're considered like the world's wealth. This is why sometimes you've probably heard over the years, really in the background, but rumblings of people saying things like, yeah, eventually Bitcoin will go to $100 million per coin. And then you sit there and you go, these people are insane. These people are out of their minds. What it means is that if we get a large portion of like the paper money that we have circulating around, Bitcoin will hit X in money numbers. If that number triples, quadruples, we get to an $800,000 Bitcoin. If 3% of every portfolio goes into Bitcoin, we get to a $1.5 million Bitcoin. The idea then extrapolates when you talk about actual hyper-Bitcoinization and the idea of like debt being formed into Bitcoin. So basically, instead of you having to pay your mortgage in US dollars, you would get something from your mortgager and basically being like, hey, we no longer accept dollars, or we're accepting Satoshis as well for your mortgage. So you would then, in essence, because Bitcoin is deflationary, you would see people paying their mortgage in Bitcoin, knowing that next year the US dollar value of Bitcoin will have risen and therefore you pay less in Satoshis. Everyone flips. I want to pay less Satoshis year on year on year. Therefore, the debt that you have and that the world begins to switches over to a Bitcoin standard. Then that then goes to other forms of, you get the idea. So this guy found out that apparently 95% of Bitcoin is currently owned. Like 95% of Bitcoin that there will ever be. For those of you who also don't know, I have to keep saying that phrase. I believe we are one or two halvings away from, I think, there only being 1 or 2% of Bitcoin left to mine. You know how we keep hearing like in 2030 or 2032 Bitcoins at 2, 3, 4, 5 million, like that kind of thing. I think Plan B says $10 million. The reason isn't simply like pipe dreams, it's based off of math. And the idea being, right now, in 2025, we're seeing an enormous amount of Bitcoin adoption. That is mathematically going to rise by 2027. You see how quickly these two companies got 600,000 and 600,000 Bitcoin out of nowhere, year and a half, and some change. The idea being by 2027, they'll have even more, and the amount of Bitcoin being released by the computer gets cut in half once again in 2028. If this level of adoption continues on this course that we're on, by the time we get to 2030 mathematically, as we've gone over many times, there's no Bitcoin actually left to buy on exchanges. You are looking for people desperate enough and interesting enough to liquidate their holdings so that they can go buy a car, buy a house, and those coins end up getting snatched up. Then by the time we get to 2032, that's 7 years from now, Bitcoin is a literal household institutional name. Remember all the bankers and all the other institutions and all the things we've been hearing about recently, who said, for those of you who missed it, if you don't, they said it's actually riskier not to own Bitcoin. That's what I personally find very fascinating about the thing we were talking about. There was somebody on Twitter, and I saw other people talking about it as well. That's how I knew that other people don't get it. Somebody wrote online, they said, cool, this was a week ago. Cool, Bitcoin's over 111,000. That's awesome. So you're telling me if I put 1,000 into Bitcoin and it goes to 222,000, I've made $1,000. That's the mindset that causes people to buy meme coins. That's the thing that causes people to be like, no, Tron is a great chain. It's this lack of understanding that Bitcoin is going to make it because the rich people want it to succeed. And I think that's something that more people are going to have to wrap their heads around. Understand that the people who own, control, use, trade, mine Bitcoin, these aren't your friends. These aren't people who have $6,000 in their bank account. These aren't people who have normal mortgages of, $3,000 a month, These are very wealthy individuals, and they found their next target, and they're going after it with a vengeance. Bitcoin's going to succeed because the president of the United States said that it is going to succeed. The people around him and other people who are close to that division wanted to succeed. Now, listen, you really have to get it. Bitcoin has all the power and all the money behind it. I think it's nice to imagine sometimes that coin number 115 or coin number 98 have some kind of a play in this book. They don't. You have to understand that Bitcoin is the winner because rich people have declared that it is the winner. When you hear that BlackRock and Blackstone and all these other companies are in the space, and Fidelity, what was the news that we had recently? It was JP Morgan Chase, for those of you who missed it. Jamie Dimon reluctantly was like, yeah, we're going to allow our clients to buy it. Bitcoin has already won. What hasn't won is the mentality of retail investors. When I keep saying that people will get it when Bitcoin goes to 1 million, it's not a joke. You're not understanding that 1 million is just a starting point. You're not getting that 15 million still isn't there. If you talk about this continuation and this integration of Bitcoin's tentacles wrapping around every single thing in finance, we will at some point mathematically get to a 30, 40, 50 million dollar Bitcoin. Your mind, for many of your minds, can't conceptualize that. For those of you who can, golf clap. For everyone else, these are the people who are on Twitter who are talking about, well, you know, cool, I can get squirrel coin or bat face coin. And it's like, okay, you don't want to pay attention to what's going on the same exact way. I told you for over a decade now, I told people to invest in cheaper real estate because, of course, over 10 years, 15 years, prices are going to go up. They're interested now that these places are $500,000, but you could have got it for $50,000. Same exact thing with art. Same exact thing with crypto. When I started this channel, you would not believe the people in the comment section who called me names, called me crazy. They hated the way that I sounded. You make sure that you miss the message. I tell you that Bitcoin's at $600. Back then, there was some billionaire who had, once again, like a Bitcoin party on some private island with all of the developers, like some major developers with it. And I was like, why in the world would this be happening? We started hearing rumors about this and this and so and so and so. Bitcoin's at $600. And I'm telling people directly into the microphone that other people are saying that Bitcoin looks like it could go to $5,000 or $10,000. Novogratz was on the news back then, so 2017. He was like, I think we could see a $10,000 Bitcoin. I say it into the microphone. I show them the news. I show them like the little adoption that we had back then. And the skepticism runs wild. You can't imagine that the thing that someone is telling you when they're presenting you with the facts might actually be true. That's a huge problem. Like, that's a huge problem that, you know, if someone's giving you facts about something, if I sat here every single day and me and you just spoke, me and you were just sitting here talking, and I didn't show you the articles, I didn't show you the graphs, I didn't show you the charts, I wasn't linking stuff, I wasn't showing you things on Twitter, your skepticism would be fully warranted. But after 9 years, it's borderline weird. So when Bitcoin does then go to 10,000, 15, and then 20,000, the people who heard about it at 600, they realize their folly. They realize their issue and their problem, and they try to get into it, but then the market ends up going down, and then they end up getting jaded. Well, of course the market goes down as I got it. No, you heard about this for 2 years. You were aware of everything that was going on. You thought it better to make fun of the way that I sounded and the way that so-and-so and the way that blah, 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 blah. And, you know, you heard that Monero was going to outpace Bitcoin. You heard that this coin was going to become the number. There were so many coins back then. So getting all this news now, and I'm shocked that there are still so many people who just love to be skeptical, who just love to not listen to the actual like facts that are presented in front of them. 3 years ago, when we were first talking about it here and on the other channel, about the, what do you call it? Like how little Bitcoin there was left on exchanges. People were posting, no, there's like 4 million Bitcoin left. And then that number went to 3.5 and then 3 million. And then it kept, you know, going lower. And presented with those numbers, it made no sense to anyone. Well, Bitcoin's not moving up in price. Yeah, because they're manipulating it to make sure that they buy at a lower price so that you aren't paying attention to it so that they get all of it. It's just how the game is. And it's a very simple game. You present someone with facts, they don't pay attention. You make sure that the market doesn't move or that it looks wrong or that something, this, you know, when we go over when Bitcoin's at $37,000 and I'm here like, well, Bitcoin looks really undervalued. Well, I hope you all have a great day, morning. And I'm like, you know, dropping hints over and over because I cannot and will never tell you what to do with your money. But at a certain point, it's just like the anger that you have for not hearing about the blockchain that you bought 2 years ago being in the news. Like then we circle back around to the conversation of you're an adult. And that encompasses two things. One, you bought the coin that you wanted to buy with your money. No one else held your hand. You did it. And the other point is that you're an adult. You can read, and I'm also reading to you. And you hear about what's happening with Bitcoin every 24 hours. And there's something in the back of your head that goes, well, I think rat face coin is probably going to do like 1,000x. Yeah, no, like that one's going to make more money. If I put 1,000 into Bitcoin, I'm only making 1,000, because you're looking at the short term. You're looking at it in the terms of being broke. You're looking at it in the terms of, I just got my paycheck. I got to pay my rent. I got to pay my bills. I have nothing left. There is no long term in the mind of someone who's broke. That's literally how it is. I was just recently chatting with someone about investments. I won't tell you what it was, but he told me that he tried to get into it and it didn't work out. It's like he's an acquaintance. He's not even a friend. And I sat there listening to his conversation as he was telling other people, yeah, it's a scam. It wasn't crypto, by the way. Yeah, it's a scam, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I also do that investment. And it's literally just buy and hold. You buy it for 200. And then usually over the course of a 5-year period, that asset will appreciate to anywhere from 1,500 to 5,000. It's like, I've looked through the charts for years. I know the numbers. And he was like, yeah, well, it didn't work out for me. And I was like, well, what did you do? He put $200 into it and then subsequently, I'll give it to you this way, lowered the value of the asset by doing something that normal people would not do with that asset. And then lost all the money. And now he's trying to basically like sell 180 of what he has, some in that capacity. And I was like, okay, cool. So after I presented him with the facts, I was like, do you want me to help you get back into it? And I can help you figure out like a better way of accumulating money with it. No, I don't like it. It's a scam. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, you have a good evening, and I'll see you around. It's all whatever. This is for those of you who've listened, I know you are doing extremely well. Like, it's actually insane how well that you're doing. Side note before we continue, we're going to see $250,000 Bitcoin. I can't tell you exactly when. It could be July. It could be August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March of next year. It's going to happen. And I want you to remember these moments. And I want you to remember that as well when Bitcoin does a 10x from there and goes to 2.5 million. Then I want you to remember in the future, when you're on a beach somewhere, you're doing well from the other, your investments. You look around and Bitcoin's at $22 million. It's abundantly clear where this is all going. 95% of Bitcoin is owned, and he said there's 95% of capital that is untapped. 95% of Bitcoin is owned and gone. This is why we keep seeing these wallet addresses only accumulating. The other 95%, he means the other 95% of money in the world that hasn't entered Bitcoin yet. Scarcity strengthens as the supply has declined to 5.7%. The institutional market may spark a multi-year bull market. That is not the first time that we have heard that. There are a lot of analysts who still think that any dip we might have, typically, historically, by the time we get to winter, that is normally when prices would drop. The problem now is, my friends, it's not us playing volleyball back and forth. It's gigantic 80-story buildings standing behind us. If we sell, they're buying. If you get rid of your position, if you see prices go down by 10%, oh, bear market, those coins are gone, and then prices move back up. The supply is so thin that they're taking everything, and any purchase on the market moves up the price. Bitwise CIO named Matt Haugen, it says, just turned up the heat among Bitcoin enthusiasts as he has cited that 95% of Bitcoin is already locked up, while 95% of the world's wealth hasn't touched it. This scarcity showdown is set to ignite a massive price surge. This is what I think we've been witnessing the last week or the last 2 weeks or so. We're seeing normal purchases on the market. The amount of OTC Bitcoin is drying up really fast. We've had 12 companies in 3 weeks announce that they're going to be buying massive amounts of Bitcoin, have already begun to buy Bitcoin, plan on buying more Bitcoin. They're trying to raise $1 billion to buy Bitcoin. We just had one. We had 2 companies. One of them said they're initially putting $100 million into Bitcoin and they're going to be raising more. And we just heard of another one. They're starting with $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, buying it. And then they're going to raise another $1 billion. Those aren't MicroStrategy, and that's not Capital 21. With institutional interest ramping up and supply rapidly shrinking, Haugen believes we're entering a multi-year bull run. And early holders might be in for the ride of a lifetime. Haugen pointed out that Bitcoin's annual supply growth is now only 0.84%. For those of you who did not know that, making it scarcer than gold. Bitcoin's inflation rate is 0.84. The US dollar, they tell us, is around 3%. Other currencies have 25%. And I mean, if you want to be as real as possible, the US dollar's inflation rate is probably closer to 9, 10, 11 to 15%. Look at the cost of everything around you. They give you that basket of goods. Well, I mean, the prices of oranges have only gone up by 3%. No, how much has my rent gone up? How much has my mortgage gone up? How much has oil gone up? Gas gone up? My heating bill. Somebody told me recently, they live in the States. I won't tell you which state. They told me that their heating for their house is like $600-700 per month. And I was like, what? So they tell people in the house to stay on like one side of the house so they can like warm that part only, but the other part of the house is cold. And I was like, maybe just don't have a mansion. Maybe just have something a little bit smaller. This was backed by Bitwise CEO Hunter Horsley. Yes, Horsley, who described Bitcoin as the most limited store of value on the planet. Out of Bitcoin's fixed 21 million supply, and for those of you who also don't know, you know that Bitcoin supply actually isn't 21 million. It will never actually get to 21 million. Bitcoin's actual fixed supply is 20,999,999. You can look it up. People say 21 million because if you're having an interview with someone on TV, you know, Bitcoin's only going to have 29,999,999. Like you'll sound a little completely insane. It'll never actually get to 21 million. Just 5.7% is still available to be mined. So when you talk about the next 2 halvings and the Bitcoin that comes out of the machine is just dust. It's only in Satoshis at that point. It's not even, it'll never be a full Bitcoin. And then you go 10 years into the future and 10 years into the future. This is all long term. How do you think generational wealth is created? You think it's by putting $50 into the market and going generational? No, it's long term. And why do you think all these people are buying up as much as possible? There's a story here that I don't think we're going to get to it today, but we're going to talk about it. A lot of crypto exchanges have begun their ascent, into the world of Bitcoin staking. There's a lot of crypto exchanges who are beginning to launch new or their version or what have you versions of like wrapped Bitcoin. Being able to stake your Bitcoin on Solana, on Sui, I want to say Avalanche, on Ethereum and other platforms to be able to get a return on top of the money that's being made. I told you last year when these things are mainstream. If you go to Coinbase, Kraken, or Binance's website, they have somewhere on the website. It shows what's the word? It'll show you like how much money you can get by like staking your stable coins or whatever the case. You get 4% return, 5-7% return. When every single crypto exchange on their landing page has how much return you can get from staking your Bitcoin on different chains. And those numbers are 4, 5, 6, 7% for doing nothing. While Bitcoin is going up $10,000 in price a month, there's going to be even less Bitcoin. The only reason we know about that is because we go over this news daily and we see what the institutions are doing and we see what they're working on in the background. Retail hasn't even grasped that idea yet. That's usually one of the big problems years ago when I was like, crypto's too advanced. Clearly. Let me explain stocks to people. And I was trying to explain dividend stocks. And I was like, you buy it, and at the end of a quarter, some of them are monthly, but usually after a quarter, you'll receive a little bit of money for each one that you held. So I was trying to tell people, and I was like, if you put 100 in it and you get a 5% return, you'll get $5 back. And I was like, what happens if you have 1,000 in it? That's 50. And I was like, now imagine doing that every single month for the next, 10, 15, 20 years. You'll build up a nice gigantic nest egg. And you'll also have like literal passive income just coming from this thing. The idea for these people that I was trying to get into investing of just making $5 was like, well, how am I supposed to eat off of $5? No, you're not understanding. You know how like you keep hearing, they were like, well, I don't know if I have that much time. And I was like, are you planning on passing in like a week? Like, what are you talking about? You don't have time. In 20 years to that person, I was like, you're still going to be working. You think that you won't because you have this idea, but I promise you, you will. You're going to want to stop working. And one of the things that would have helped you stop working is that massive nest egg you were sitting on from that stock that kept on going up, and also the dividend that you would have been getting from it. But no, they know people don't. What's going on? So in the same exact way that this person couldn't conceive that they could have bought something and made passive income, it's the same exact way for Bitcoin. Understand, this will not revolve around an entire Bitcoin. It'll be what you have in Satoshis, what have you. You'll be able to put that away, your Ether away. There's also people working on XRP staking for Flare and all this other stuff. The future of crypto is I bought it early, I made a lot of money, and it's still making me a lot of money for doing absolutely nothing. There's a reason why all these rich people are getting into it. They know the scarcity, they know the price is going to go up, and the passive income is the gigantic cherry on top for doing nothing forever. If these are the protocols, if these are the passive income ways that we have now in 2025, at some point, JP Morgan and Fidelity are going to be offering their clients a form of a way to like stake their Bitcoin through the bank. Yeah, on JP Morgan chain, we're also offering this as well. We can give you 5.6%. The earliest adopters make the most money. And that's why I keep telling you, you are an early adopter. Be excited, be happy, and use the opportunity that you have been given, because a lot of people just don't want to. Or don't think that it's important. Well, I hope you're all doing well. Hope everybody's doing great. Hope you're enjoying yourself. Hope you're ready for warmer weather. Hope you've been investing. Hope you took advantage of any dips. I hope you listened to me 2-3 years ago. I mean, even more actually, about the market, because I know a lot of people did not. So yeah, it's an invest and learn kind of thing. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.